Welcome back to Streetbeat. You're with Justine, Martin, and Mariko has rejoined us in the studio.
How good was that discussion we had just before?
Yeah, wasn't it really interesting? Coal seam gas, because you hear a lot about it discussed in the media, don't you? But I must admit, prior to that, I didn't really have an in-depth understanding as to what it entailed.
And I felt they were very balanced too, because I think people out there want to hear all sides of the story.
Well, we need to know the facts on these issues, don't we?
Yeah.
I think it's really important that we convey the facts in a really objective way, and then let people come to the conclusion as to whether it's a good project or not. In my view, clearly it's not. But there's probably no surprises there.
No, we would know that. And what are we going to do for the rest of the show, you reckon?
Well, we have got lots of very interesting things to talk about.
What I think I was thinking about is I thought we could do something about some of the good deeds that people did during the fire season and the storm season.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, because I got a story that I came across that I actually shared it with a few people and they really liked it, so we might share that a bit later on. We've got eyes and ears, and I haven't had a chance to have eyes and ears with Mariko, so I'll be interested to see what you said in your reading, and I've got my story showing one that I want to talk about. And the other thing we could possibly talk about is, more recently I went to an Indigenous First Nations meeting, and it was really, really interesting to talk about some of the issues like what the views are on acknowledging country and welcome to country, and what the different views are depending where you put the line. So with Mariko here, I thought it'd be really good. And I must say, I really loved that program last week, so I want to be part of that conversation I missed out last week.
Oh, we can, I'm happy to go over some of what we discussed.
It is a really interesting conversation.
You were missed, Martin, I've got to say. Yeah.
Oh, well, I was sort of sneaking around listening to it in 10-minute segments and then going back to where I was, just keeping track of it. But it was actually really interesting listening to the program as an outsider. Especially knowing you guys, imagining what you're doing when we're all here and you're all talking and then we're all talking and all of a sudden the white light comes on and then we've got to get into it again.
But just tell us, I'm really interested about the acknowledgement and the welcome to country, because I think we have talked in
I think
the
I've
past.
come in on the
You've
program to
explained
talk
the
about,
differences, but perhaps you could just refresh. What's the difference between an acknowledgement of country and a welcome to country?
Well, it's really who does it. So welcome to country, I mean, it only can be done by a traditional owner of the area you're in. So, for example, in the Hornsby, in the Hornsby area, you're looking at Darug and Guringai traditional owners. So there's two different groups in this geographic region. So, for welcome to country, you would need a elder from one of those groups. Acknowledgement, everyone can do. So what I've noticed is that if you're at a meeting and there's an acknowledgement being made, what a lot of people, organisations try to do is they try and find if there's an Aboriginal employee or someone who's present in the room, they ask that person if they can do the acknowledgement. And I understand the reasoning why. I think it's it's another example of show respect, going, okay, we would like an Aboriginal person to really take, the driving seat on this one. But actually, a lot of, people in community, we feel that it's important ownership for non-Indigenous as well as Indigenous people to do acknowledgements. Actually, we feel it's, I think it's quite powerful to have a non-Indigenous person do it, even if there's Indigenous people in the room, because it's about they can show the respect.
Yeah, because isn't that the point of the acknowledgement, is we are recognising that it always will be Aboriginal land.
That's right.
The thing that I often am a little bit confused about, wanting to be really respectful, is if an acknowledgement is made, say at the beginning of a meeting, by the person that's starting, should each subsequent speaker also make an acknowledgement?
Yeah, I know this has come up. I know people who have raised this as an issue because obviously if you have everyone doing it, that's the meeting times, and also I think that's where people kind of think, oh look, what is the reason for this, and that's where you feel like it gets a little bit I just feel that people just don't, there's a disconnect between why they're doing it. Are we just doing it for sort of like procedural sake? And it should be more than just a procedural tick the box procedure. So I know that there are people who personally want to do an acknowledgement themselves. Like I do that when I'm at a conference, even though someone has already done a welcome or an acknowledgement of country, when I start mine, I acknowledge country as well, and I refer to whoever's done the welcome. I say, oh, thank you, Auntie, or thank you, Uncle, for the welcome. But I think some places they just tend to do like what a senior person does the acknowledgement. And then after that, I guess it's not expected for everyone to do, but I don't know, like I think as long as there's one done at the beginning, I suppose.
Is there a set thing, I'm talking about acknowledgement in country, is there a set thing to say? Because I sort of stumble around when I like to do it or when I do it, or there's a little bit of license there.
Well, I actually think it's really good to customise, but there are two essential elements in an acknowledgement to country, just from my experience and also hearing a few, is that you acknowledge the traditional owners of the area, so where possible the clan name. And I know that that's come up as an issue that some areas, because of the historical records or like, you know, a lot of dispossession and displacement happening in the area, we might not know who the traditional owners are. So sometimes, you know, for that sort of scenario, you do a generic one, but where possible, it is the best practice protocol to mention the name of the people. So here's the Darug and Guringai peoples. The second element is to refer to the elders, so you also acknowledge and pay your respects to the elders, and past and present, but there's also people say and emerging, so take into account the young people who are such an important part of our community, because they'll be continuing our culture and, you know, our society going forward. So the way I do an acknowledgement is I'd like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the Guringai and Darug peoples of this area. It is upon their country that, you know, for example, this building is built, it's upon, and I'd also like to acknowledge and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. So that's the sort of wording I'd go with. I do customise a bit as well, so I'd like to refer to the landscape and country, because that's, you know, the key thing. So recently when I was up like around the Deerabin, so the Hawkesbury River, up in communities around there, I worked in a bit about the sort of the lay of the land, because particularly we've got so many different groups in the area, like you know, got Darug and Guringai, and a lot of people wonder which is the particular boundary for them. And it's like important to remember that boundaries, it's not like the European sense. It's not like there was very clear demarcations. They could be quite fluid, the boundaries, and people would be passing through for, you know, ceremonial, seasonal reasons, and yeah. So, but particularly up with Deerabin, that's a clear natural, you know, boundary marker being a river, and then also here around the ridge lines as well. So what I'd do in my acknowledgement is that I'd say, you know, this is the lands of, so you've got the Guringai people to the east, and then the Darug towards the west, and across the river you got the dark and young people. So, and then acknowledging about the river and what it operated as. It's like a, yeah.
What about the Eora Nation? When people refer to that, is that something that came across?
That's in so that's in the city, so around the city area. So yeah, like I've heard, you know, there's 29 clans in the Eora Nation. So in the Sydney sort of CBD main metropolitan area. So yeah, there is a bit like, you know, there's different groups you talk to. I think with the boundaries, there can be a little bit of debate about the boundaries. So particularly like, you know, you've got Eora, you've got Darug, and so it depends on who you talk to as well. And I think the thing to remember is with Sydney, especially post 1788, there was so much disruption and displacement that the boundaries and the clan groups, you know, it was so different before 1788, and since then, you know, groups have moved around and had to join other groups, and there's a lot, you know, with massacres, with smallpox, you know, stolen generations. Yeah, it can be really tricky, and then you've got communities that are not so much on like, you know, bloodlines. It's like Redfern, for example, in Western Sydney, you've got Aboriginal people from all over the place, and they're gathering in particular areas, and so there's different ways of sort of defining community.
I'm gobsmacked. I just love
it's
this.
Very complex.
Yeah.
I hope you can focus. It's very complex areas, and it's like, you know, trying to explain it, it can take, you know, I think you can spend days kind of talking about the intricacies of
Two things, if I may, Mariko. One, in Jabberkai country up in Cairns, it's a mixture of, excuse the name, I'm not 100% of the terminology, but desert people and rainforest people. I know that's correct.
Yep.
And then people transition, as you were saying, they're going through. So in the wet season, they clear out of the rainforest and go up into the drylands and into the tablelands.
Right.
And in the wet season, they come down to the coast there. I want to touch on the whole concept of welcome to country, because at the couple of meetings I've been at recently, there is a little bit of sort of consternation about when welcome should be done and when it's, because it needs to be done in a very, what's the word I want to, authentic way that reflects.
Oh, so to be careful with the word authentic. It's such a loaded term, and it can be quite.
What word am I after? Do you know where I'm going with this?
Yeah, I get what you're saying, though. Yeah, I mean, I
So
get.
basically, do we?
The appropriateness, maybe appropriate is the way to go, because I think it's talking about, we're talking about matters of protocol and respectful and appropriate, you know.
So would it be true to say there might be a mixture of opinion about whether welcome to country should be done all the time, or it needs to be done in a way where it's fully understood when it's done?
Well, I think the issue has been that there's been a bureaucratisation of the process, because, like, you know, in terms of meetings and like scheduling people in to do these various ceremonies. I mean, acknowledgements is the sort of thing that anyone and everyone should be doing. Where welcomes, they tend to happen for quite, you know, VIP sort of events, because you what an organisation would do is they would contact and engage an elder to come, and it's a fee for service. There's a fee, like it's a cultural service. I mean, that's another aspect we should discuss too, is about people expecting elders to do welcomes to country for free, and it's been a very contentious issue in community, because yeah, there's some organisations, or like, you know, for things like school fetes or community events, you know, people they want to have a welcome, they want to have an elder to come in, an appropriate person to come in to do that ceremony, but there's a fee involved, and that takes into account the fact that the person is a, you know, senior knowledge holder, and that's their knowledge, and they're actually sharing it with people, and it's not like it's a transactional thing, like it's something they're giving to people. But also the transport costs involved, petrol, so if you know, elders do travel distances as well to get to events, and so that's what a fee would take into account. And that could be through, like, you would engage a elder through a local Aboriginal land council, or you can go directly to a, you know, one of the tribal groups, or an elder directly themselves. And so the issue that's come up is, why do, you know, can you do it for free, or, you know, can you do, like, do we have to pay? And it's like, well, do you go to a plumber and say, hey, can you fix something, or come and have a look at something? And then say, oh, well, you know, can we not pay? Like, there's a bit of a double standard. Yeah, but just coming back to, I know your initial question about when you do welcomes to country, I think, you know, as often as possible to have a elder to do is important. Yeah.
Well, and that was the point, I guess, I'm trying to understand. When people are passing through traditional land, like in Javakai country, I can understand that there's a lot of meaning to that. So it's interesting. Well, Mariko, thanks for that little bit, but I think we're going to go to a break, don't we?
We do, so stay with us, and we will be back after the breaks and the news.
That was great.
Sorry,
One more thing
You're
I'd
so
like to
kind.
say. Oh,
Yes.
really? I hope so.
Yeah.
There was one other point.
We've got a while that we can.
Okay, because can we extend that into
Yes.
the next
Yeah,
segment?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I hope I answered it. It's such a
You did.
complex
It is
issue.
interesting. It's really
It really
interesting.
is. And it's funny, you know, because the PhD in you, I knew authentic wasn't the right word, but I couldn't find it.
Oh, no, that is no offence, because I know that
Yeah.
word can be, like, in a historical
Yeah.
context, when you're looking at authenticity,
Yeah, that's
it
right.
has such a sinister, negative connotation. Like, no, I knew that's not where you're going at all, but I just
Yeah.
thought, oh, look, you know,
Let's
just
qualify it.
to,
Yeah.
it's good to take it out of your vocab where
Yeah.
possible.
But it's funny, you know, because in education, we're always talking about authentic
We
learning
can talk about
experiences.
that too if you want to.
And so, no, don't have to. But
What is
we could.
authentic? Yeah.
Because that's the buzzword in education, because we want our learning to be authentic.
Oh,
To
I
the
can put my
individual.
PhD hat on. Yeah,
Yeah,
like, I talk
okay.
a lot about authenticity of my work because of, you know, particularly Southeast Australia Aboriginal collections, and authenticity is such a
Yeah.
loaded topic because of the way Aboriginality has been construed.
Justine, just turn the music down a bit.
Sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's I'm happy for it to branch out into a discussion.
Oh,
on
we
that
could go
too.
for hours on this. And
Oh,
I know
yeah.
there'll be people that are interested. That meeting I went to recently, that was fascinating. I really enjoyed it.
We'll talk about some of those issues that came up, because I think particularly welcome to country being a two-way thing.
Yeah.
Because I think that's something that I can see why people think it's tokenistic. So I want to address. I wouldn't mind addressing that a little bit more in detail, and I wouldn't mind getting your reflections on it too.
Oh, that scenario we're talking about.
Yeah, and what your thoughts are.
How good is that?
What's that?
5 o'clock.
Straight.
Spot on.
There you go, Neil. Neil is actually,
that's recording still,
yes,
right?
yeah, that's recording. Yeah. Neil was there a minute ago. He was
was he?
coming in from New Zealand.
Got
checking
the
on us.
news.
He sent a message that said, "Geez, you got straight into it."
Business, all business.
This is all business. Let me just check.
Yeah.
People are.
Yeah, we haven't destroyed your program yet.
No, you're all right, Neil. He might not watch this far
Well, you
into
could
this.
put you fell this. I got no raised off and raised back because I raised in, but then we started on time.
Oh, okay. Well, we can do it when we go back on air. Just say, just Neil, who's listening from another country, far, far away.
How's that, Neil? How's that, Neil? Spot on with the timing of the news.
He's not there at the moment, as far as I know.
One little glitch with the music.
Oh, it's fine. So yeah, I've got a double-barreled contribution for our what's it called? The C's.
I struggle with it too. I think we've dubbed it Eyes and Ears. What
Eyes
we've been
and Ears.
listening to, watching, and reading.
Okay,
That's the
fine.
sort of subtitle. And I put out a thing about what do you think about I didn't like having, what was it called? What was it called? The other one. On the run with Streetbeat. I think that works because then you could all do our little interviews.
Oh, cool. I was just having fun when I said Martin on the run. It's like you've made a run for it.
No, that's good. But I reckon you could.
Being a runner too.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It's play on words.
It's good. But I think, do you know how to do an easy 6-minute interview on your phone?
No,
It's really easy.
I've got a microphone.
Yeah.
Do you use the microphone?
I use a program called Recorder. Look on your app called Recorder.
Because I got a voice recorder. I'm thinking about I used to have a voice like a proper Olympus voice recorder.
Oh,
That's another thing I might think about getting another one
Well,
of.
are we going to do Penny? We're going to do Penny at 10 past, remember? Yeah,
Because
so we've got a
Penny's
break.
playing. Okay.
Yeah, we've got to do Penny at 10 past.
All right. So would we talk to
And after
finish
Penny,
up
we'll
the,
come
we can come back to Welcome to the Country?
Oh, we could do that briefly.
Do you want to do it before?
Past.
It won't take long to just finish up the
So
conversation.
that costs $70, and you just plug it in, and there are two of them. And it costs 140.
Oh, you got a lapel.
Yeah, and I just put that there, and then away we go.
Yeah, Neil
I've
mentioned
got
that
time
you.
to race it out to the bathroom very quickly. I'll be super quick.
We can shut this down now.
I quite like it there actually.
You quite like going underneath the table. Oh, where'd you go?
No, I don't like crawling under the table. I like having it there because it just gives me a bit more space. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's still alive. So what I want to do with you is actually do an interview with you as well.
Oh,
for 6
okay.
minutes about your community involvement.
Oh, so that's what the topic. Yeah, 'cause I was
Yeah.
asking about what the sort of topics were for that.
Mm.
I'm just looking at myself in the phone.
Okay. You can see yourself on the phone. Can you hear it? What's it sound like?
It's
got
a
the
bit
radio.
delay, isn't it? Oh, it's radio. Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a delay there. In fact, actually, could you bring up my? Do you have LinkedIn? There?
Yes, I do have link. Oh, the article.
Yeah, could you the quote? I want to use those quotes that X used
Am I
last
linked in
night.
with you, though, Martin?
I think we are, aren't we?
I hope so. That'll be awkward otherwise.
No, it doesn't matter.
I'll look you up. I don't go into LinkedIn as often as I used to.
Because there's some quotes there from RDR I want to use.
Cool.
Do I exist?
Let me find it. It's just I haven't logged in for so long. It's just making me go through the whole.
So that's all you need, and you just need a program called Recorder, and then I want to actually interview Rachel.
Yes.
I want to interview her for 6 minutes.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
Yeah, and she said she would.
Awesome. Okay, you're my second tier connection,
There you
so.
go. That's non-PhD people.
There we go. You just have to accept it now, but I don't know if it means I can access your stuff
You
now.
should be able to, shouldn't you?
Let me see.
The phone's up there.
Skip.
Click my head. Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay,
There's
cool.
a couple of quotes in there I want.
Alright. You got a pen? Yep.
Yeah. Not just reconciliation, but reconciling an action.
Yeah, and there's a whole thing about reconciliation as well, but whether who needs to do the reconciling, that's a big issue.
Yeah.
And we could have more of a conversation about that leading up to Reconciliation Week.
Yeah. I like the other bit you said as well. We are part of an interruption and are finding our way back.
Oh yeah, yeah. Also, disruption. I mean, this year is the 250th anniversary of major disruption, or leading to a big disruption in 1788.
Yeah.
Are you gonna come around?
I'll just crawl under again. It's just easier. It's not ideal to be crawling on the floor under there. It's not clean. But
Now you see her. Now you don't. Now you do.
So we might
But it
just
is
do.
good
Do you think
for the
before we
space.
bring in On the Run, we just wrap up this one just briefly?
Okay, so you want to stop there?
Or
Is it a recording for
It's a recording.
Okay, so
We probably should introduce it as well.
I can introduce it, go to it, and then come back to Mariko.
Oh, happy to
Yeah,
whenever.
okay.
Whenever
Because that
suits.
way can then we
We're
can
just filling in
continue it.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, no worries.
With our one.
Well, we've
yeah.
still got the gig guide, so we've in the Streetbeat
Well, I'll
news and we've got the
introduce
gig guide.
the new segment.
We can talk about how good
Yep.
Hornsby Inn is to be part of the gig guide.
Part of the
regularly.
gig.
Still got a couple of minutes.
So that's all right.
I don't even really need this, to be honest, because it's not like I've got anything in there. The only thing I had was Gillen's Row, a bit about, not
What was the
Gillen's
other
Row,
one?
but the
The other one
asbestos
was
witness.
I really like this one, because it did imply quite a lot.
Yeah.
It didn't actually mention climate change, which was really interesting.
Oh yeah, and it's all about adaptation and how we've resilience as well. Resilience. So yeah, we can draw out a lot of those threads.
So I might, when we come back after Penny, I might sort of say I've got 3 quotes for you.
Yep.
And then you could bring in.
Can I bring in stuff about the Welcome to Country
do
being
that first.
two-way? What does that come into?
Part of reconciling in action.
Well, maybe I could just do before we lead in. We can finish off
So
the
we'll
Welcome to
finish off,
Country,
yeah,
and then
okay.
yeah,
We are in a continual cycle of change,
yeah. No, I can talk about all that sort of stuff.
and we'll come back to it after Penny then.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Change, which has been going on for thousands of years.
Thousands of years. Yeah. The other article you wanted to look at?
No, I can talk about that. That's going to be the character thing going on for thousands of years.
This one, home at 9:15, pantry and fridge empty, so off to Penno shops for some.
That's the one. That's the one. That's the one I want to talk about. It's a great, and you know what?
Mm-hmm.
That blew my LinkedIn away over 1,000.
Really?
1,000 views. Like you know how you're lucky to get 10 views or 100, 20 views. That particular LinkedIn post got
Oh yes, I
1,000
remember
views.
reading that. Yeah.
So you just
When you
never
put it
know.
on social, yeah.
You never know where people are going to read or be interested.
Because
in
you
things.
use, I never really thought of using LinkedIn to kind of upload stuff. Like I
I've
use
just-
other
I've just changed
social
I've
for that.
changed it all up now. I don't really care anymore. What are we doing?
I got the gig guide still.
Okay,
So still got a couple of minutes.
2 minutes.
Yeah.
Is that rolling under an alarm? 22 minutes to go. Yeah. That's all right. 2 minutes to say. All right.
I'm gonna make a run for it.
No, I'm just going to just check the phone, make sure it's still working. My battery was down at work and I had to fix that up. Paul's there. Mariko's watching. Hi, Mariko. I'll wave to you.
How can you see who's watching?
Yeah. There's not, the value of this is in when I publish it again and we repost it.
But you can do distinct segments. So that segment we did with Lock the Gate, you
Yeah.
can carve that up without
Yeah.
everyone having to watch all this
Yeah,
stuff.
that's
Yeah,
right.
okay, that'd be good. Because I don't know how to download it. I must get Neil to show me.
Oh, from
I don't know how
Facebook?
to, no, from this. You know how
Oh, yeah.
Neil does it?
Yeah.
I don't know how to do that. I must
No.
get him to show me next week how he actually pulls it out.
And extracts out
Yeah,
Yeah.
the interviews from the computer that he does here. A key and that, the two things.
the key to get into the building, that's right.
But I can't win. Yeah, it never used to be a problem. It's always open.
So
only-
Tony happened to be a bit early to be prepared himself.
Yeah. Yeah, lucky I was early. I got here just after 3.
Mm.
Otherwise, it would have.
Did you go somewhere or?
I did. I drove across to Richard Dawes, lives across
Oh, does
the
he?
way. So I jumped in my car and raced across there. But somebody must have come in because honestly, the doors are locked.
Yeah.
Tony, you came in because he's.
Tony was here, and then another one of the presenters came as well. So it's good to know that there's a network.
Because I remember, like we left the show last Friday, and the next program they were running late because of traffic, and so I think now Tony's outside.
Oh,
Yeah.
I heard that when I heard the end of your
He's not
program.
going to take a chance.
Did everyone turn up last week?
There was
someone
lady
came in just as we left.
as we
Oh,
left, so they're
wow.
lucky because we let her in.
Yeah.
And and then after that the others came because there was traffic delays. Yeah. So what happens? Like the programs just kind of roll over. Thank God. Like there's no.
You just put it onto autoplay. And it just
Good. So there's no
clicks it
dead
autoplay
air.
and off it
Eventually,
goes.
I'd like to do it, but I just don't have the time. 6 seconds.
No, because then we're just going to do a little promo
Okay.
to come back. So
Are
it's
you going
just
to
a-
introduce it, or will I?
I'm happy for you to do the come back and then do the penny
Yeah.
thing. So we've got about 10 seconds now.
Welcome back to Triple H 100.1, and we're on the Streetbeat program with Justine, Martin, and Mariko. And Neil is away this weekend, but we look forward to having you back next week, Neil. We're just going to pause on our discussion with Mariko about Indigenous issues, and we're going to go on to our new segment, which appears at about 5:10 each Friday, and it's called On the Run with Streetbeat. And this started a few weeks ago. We were all talking about all the different community members and how life is really busy. What's the saying? Give something to a busy person and they'll get it done. So we found a couple of people to speak to. Last week we spoke to Kevin Heaton, and he's running and his life as a bus driver and things like this. And this week we're speaking to a local lady who's been here since the early 60s and her involvement in the community. And her name's Penny Becchio. And you've got 6 minutes with Penny coming up now. Yeah, so that's it. So
The only trouble is you tend not to. I said because I haven't
listened to it.
you.
You can listen to it,
and
yeah.
we tend to talk, don't we, in between the.
So I might pause this bit of the thing and we'll come back for eyes and ears later on. Sorry. You can hear the echo. Yeah.
It does go quickly the time, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
I'll just turn this around.
You know, we're nearly up to the next break.
Okay, we'll stop this one.